DC, look who's the new bad guy. Me.
Chael, new age parenting, Oregon, he's the best. He is the absolute best.
I appreciate that. I'm actually not overly proud of that moment. There was a performance in there. I was proud of the little performer, but I'm not a huge advocate for what just happened. And by the way, George Masvidal will give him a beating. Like, he's not ready for Masvidal yet.
Hey,
Stand back, let Dad handle that.
How are you going to explain this to Miss Brittany? How in the world are you going to do it? I mean, I don't understand. It's going to be a fun conversation. I wish I could be a fly on the wall.
Daniel, I'm going to simply tell her, Pharaoh's wrestling coach, Daniel Cormier, asked him to open the show with the following line and told him he would have to do push-ups if he didn't. And out of respect to his coach, he did. See, that's the one thing about bad guys you have to understand. Bad guys lie a lot.
Yeah, it's safe. That's a smart one, and I will eat the bullet for you. I will jump in front of it for you, my brother.
Thank you, buddy.
But Chael, so Khamzat Chimaev is out of the main event against Robert Whittaker. We are now getting Robert Whittaker versus Aliskerov. Aliskerov is a dangerous. Ikram is dangerous, and he is tough, and he is good. And Robert Whittaker said yes, but my first thought was, this is dangerous for Ikram, but it's ultimately more risky for Robert Whittaker. How big of a risk is it for Robert Whittaker to take on a guy that has very limited fights in the UFC, but also has shown that he can compete with the best in the world?
This has upset written all over it. And I do not take a pleasure in saying that. Like, I love what Robert Whittaker's doing. I love that Robert Whittaker, and don't forget, Bo Nickal filled in somewhere between here, okay? We went from Chimaev, who's the scariest guy in the division, against Bo Nickal, who shows the most promise in the division, to Ikram, who's on one heck of a roll within the division. Robert Whittaker said yes, yes, and yes. And I just want him to get that kind of credit. Now, Robert Whittaker, okay, and not everybody's Hall of Fame induction is created the same, right? Robert Whittaker will be in the shinier, more beautiful, what the heck took you guys so long to get him here category. But Robert Whittaker does his best fights against grapplers. Go and see his one of any of the 10 rounds he did opposite Yoel Romero. You go, my God, this guy is special. Go watch Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum, particularly when you understand what was on the line in the moment in that fight. It's some of his most bright and shiny moments. And you want to know what Ikram reminds me of? You go look at Ikram's record. Go to Sherdog or something. Just bring his record up and then bring up the record of Dricus du Plessis. And you are going to see more similarities popping off that page. You're going, oh my goodness, what exactly has Robert gotten himself into?
You know, for me, it's very risky for the Reaper, but it's on brand. This is what he does. You remember when Jared Cannonier was riding really hot and nobody wanted to fight him? Robert Whittaker said, okay, I'll fight him. It's what he does. He fights anybody. He fights the toughest guys. The Dricus du Plessis fight was another one of those situations where nobody was fighting Dricus in the top 5. Robert was on the verge of earning another title opportunity. Dricus knocks him out. Same thing is happening right now. Aliskerov is a young, hungry guy that looks to be the real deal. Most people in Robert Whittaker's position would say, you know what, guys? I signed up to fight a guy that I know if I beat him, I'm going to get a title opportunity. I signed up to fight a guy who is the boogeyman of the division. I want to do what I did many times before and prove that I can beat people who believe the guy is unbeatable. He did it with Yoel. Luke Rockhold told me Yoel Romero felt like he was punching concrete. Robert Whittaker beat him twice. Jared Cannonier was on fire. Robert Whittaker beat him. Robert Whittaker went into an arena with 61,000 people to fight Israel Adesanya 2 years into his UFC career. He didn't win, but he always goes out there to fight the best. Now he's fighting a young, hungry guy who doesn't have the resume of these others. The guy that is a bit unknown. Aliskerov's got 2 fights in the UFC. He's got 5 other fights that were canceled. Chael never got to the octagon. This guy is dangerous. What Aliskerov did to Phil Hawes was absolutely stunning to me. I could not believe, after watching Phil Hawes, who we both know, All-American wrestler in junior college, tremendous striker, very tough, very durable. Aliskerov buzzed through him like he was not even on his level. Then he comes back, and in his second UFC appearance, he looks just as good. This dude is dangerous. He is a real player in this division, and only Robert Whittaker would be taking this fight. And I believe that that's where the intrigue is for me. It's how do you manage the risk versus the reward when you're Robert Whittaker? Because if you win, Chael, you're the former champ, one of the greatest of all time, you're supposed to. If you lose, you have now become a guy that will be used to springboard guys into the next area or the next level of the middleweight division.
Yeah. I mean, the wolf in the closet of our entire industry is ABC, and this fight is going on ABC. Guys get 1 to 2 shots in an entire year. This is the third time they've come to Robert Whittaker, and I realize some of those fights fell through, but this is the guy that the company keeps turning to. Why do I bring that up? Well, that's going to be a lot of eyeballs. Robert Whittaker isn't going to love this, and Sean Strickland isn't going to love this. But this is not a number 1 contenders match any more than Sean Strickland versus Paulo Fila is going to turn out to be a number 1 contenders match. It's not. The winner of this fight draws in to Sean Strickland, and that becomes your number 1 contenders match. But I go to and take the time to tell you that, Daniel, because what a chance for Ikram. Oh, by the way, what a chance for Whittaker. Whittaker belongs right back in there with his 2 nemesis in Duplessis and Adesanya. But getting rematches and triple rematches gets to be a little bit complicated. That's the same problem that Strickland's going to have as the calendar starts to play out. This is a battle to get these 2 guys together. So if it's not the championship match, you go to the next best thing that you can get, which is the number 1 contenders match. I think that's what's on the line, but I think that it's also at bay for Ikram. A lot of times we don't see that. When you're a straight semifinal, the final, it's not always what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Meaning both guys are in the same situation. In a number 1 contenders match, it does mean they're both in the same situation. Ikram could draw into Sean, so could Whittaker. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
You know, earlier I saw something about Israel Adesanya fighting Dricus Duplessis in Perth, so we know that the title fight is going to be happening. But when you look at the welterweight rankings, Imavov's number 4. He just had a very, very weird win over Jared Cannonier, a stoppage win. So he's on the short list. You got Robert Whittaker, who is fighting Ikram Aliskerov, and also you got Sean Strickland. Like you said, though, Chael, I believe that the winner gets Sean Strickland for the opportunity. This person that fights this weekend, the winner that gets through Saudi Arabia, I believe, needs to get ready to be in line or ready for UFC 306, I believe it is, that they're going to fight. I need to be, if I'm one of these guys, fighting Sean Strickland on the co-main event of that fight. Because if Adesanya goes out of that fight, I want to be, hey, I'm in line. I'm ready. But you know what's very interesting about this whole situation? Aliskerov has 2 fights. He beats Robert Whittaker. He will be fast-tracked now into the elite of the elite in this division. How rarely is it that we have a guy come into the UFC and within 4 to 5 fights, he's the champ? We saw Max Holloway win 11 to become champ. We saw Islam Makhachev win 10 or 11 to become champ. Leon Edwards was on an 11-fight unbeaten streak to become champion. Normally, it doesn't happen that quick. So if you're Aliskerov, you are jumping on this opportunity. Sure. And it's so weird because for so long, we looked at Khamzat and we said, Khamzat could be the champ at 170. Khamzat could be the champ at 185. But under the cloak of darkness, Ikram Aliskerov comes in. He will possibly do it in the same amount of time that we expected Khamzat to do it. Between 20 and 21, Khamzat was 4-0. He hasn't fought much since. Aliskerov, if he can get through Whittaker, say he fights Strickland, at 4-0, he will be sitting at the doorstep of a title opportunity. This is a massive weekend for this young man.
And I want to make sure I give plenty of shine to Whittaker here. I really do admire what he's doing. But when I tell you to look at Ikram's record and compare that against Dricus Duplessis, one other commonality, Whittaker, the lines come out. Guess what he is against Ikram? He's a 3-1 favorite. Guess what Whittaker was the night he took on Dricus du Plessis? He was a 3-1 favorite. Robert Whittaker does his best when the world's against him. He does his best when he's the one feeling on short notice, when he's the one moving into 5 rounds, when he only prepared for 3 rounds. When other guys do it to him, it takes a little bit of that pressure off, and I'm just sharing for you. There's a lot about this match that has upset written on it.
Yeah, you know, Robert Whittaker is a giant in this division, man. He's been for a very long time. And a guy that looks to be one of the future contenders is Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal has been, let's say, handled with white. He's gotten the white glove service, Chael. He's gotten fights that he would seem to be favored in. But it seems as though the UFC is ready to move forward with Bo, because when they needed an opponent, he got the call. Take a listen.
I did get a call. Yeah.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Unfortunately, I got a call while I was in the mountains of Montana, and I didn't get back to cell service for 3 days. And so I came back into cell service to a few text messages saying, call me back, and it was too late.
Chael. So Bo Nickal's sitting there. He's got a Wagyu cap on. Kassar's drinking wine or apple juice. I bet he's drinking apple juice. But Bo's up hiking, misses the call. Sometimes maybe it's better to miss a call. Chael, if Bo Nickal would have answered that phone and said yes to Robert Whittaker, is Val and then Cody Brundage to Robert Whittaker, that's a big step. Would that have been too much for Bo Nickal?
You know, I got to just tell you one thing. I actually watched that interview, and it's the very next line out of Bo's mouth that had me laughing when that came on. Bo tells them, I don't mind that I missed the call. Now, this is a quote. Saudi Arabia, that place is far as crap. What? What kind of expression is that? It's as far as crap. What do you mean it's as far? You know, you use crap to protect yourself from the profanity 4-letter word. You can insert the 4-letter word. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, what does he mean? It's as far as crap. I got to tell you, I would have loved to see Bo in that spot. And I think that it's helpful that Bo dropped that. It's got us covering it. But it also helps to build you in this way. If you're Bo, right, like he's so good and he's completely undefeated. He's getting guys out of there quickly. But is he held back by not having a ranking? Is he a guy that they can't main event and they can't count on? So the mere fact that that was offered to him shows that the company does hold him in a big light, which I think was his real goal when he laid that out there. And would he quite be ready for Robert Whittaker? Listen, Whittaker does his best work against wrestlers. That specific matchup, I do think, is problematic for Bo. But are the top guys in our main events and our 5-round fights ready for Bo? He's absolutely that good. I do believe that.
You know, I think he could compete with anyone. I don't know that this would have been good for him right now. I just remember watching him in there with Cody Brundage. And Val Woodburn, Jamie Pickett were not wrestlers. They were essentially handpicked for him. And they were style matchups that favored him so greatly that you knew the outcome. Cody Brundage had a little bit of a wrestling background. Not much. But in those moments that he made Bo work a little bit harder than he usually worked for takedowns, you could sense a little bit of panic in Bo. I think he needs to go through that panic with someone that's less experienced before he fights someone like Robert Whittaker. Look, Chael, I got to be honest with you, man. I went through my whole career before I got to John Jones, and I dealt with no issue. I fought Dan Henderson, Bigfoot, Josh Barnett. I had very few instances where I struggled. When I got in there with a guy that knew how to handle struggle, it became very difficult for me. I believe that if Bo doesn't learn to struggle a little bit before getting to a Robert Whittaker, it becomes really difficult to deal with when you've never experienced it.
Daniel, that was an incredibly measured response by you. As a matter of fact, I plan to take a different route, and I even plan to disagree with you. You have won me over. And I think that, yes, Bo could compete. I like how you said this. You said Bo could compete with him, but is Bo ready for him? And that's a very different question. We don't want to just go out and compete. We don't just show that we're good enough to be one of the guys. You want to go out and keep that undefeated streak in line. And, yes, to step into ABC in a main event in a place that's as far as crap, a 5-round atmosphere on short notice against a future Hall of Famer, it would have been biting off a little bit too much. I think at this point in his career, he's very wise for bringing out that the promotion looks at him in that regard. But he's even maybe a little bit fortunate that he's not getting in there with Robert Whittaker. You have convinced me, partner. I stand down.
Yeah, he's smart. He's smart. Bo Nickal always is a smart guy, and the UFC smart. You know, what it tells me, though, Chael, they had to be pretty desperate to find someone that mattered to offer to Bo Nickal because they don't want to waste him against a Robert Whittaker. So they must have needed someone. They might have called other guys that weren't readily available, and so they had to pivot and try to adjust. Now, UFC 303 is now headlined by Alex Pereira and Yuri Prochazka. Alex Pereira, could you imagine the money he's making now, Chael? I mean, he says yes to everything. But this is the new main card. It's Pereira versus Prochazka 2. Ortega Lopez, who is on fire. Anthony Smith, Carlos Alberg. Myra Boyne da Silva takes on Macy Chasson. And Ian Machado Gary takes on MVP Michael Venom Page. But chill. Back to Alex Pereira. Headlined Madison Square Garden twice. He headlined UFC 300, which was a monster. He steps in again on short notice for UFC 303. Dude is getting paid. But not only is he getting paid, Alex Pereira, star, continues to grow. Now, I get it, Chael. It will always be hard to top Conor McGregor in regards to star power. But you still got Israel Adesanya. You still got John Jones. But when I think about the face of the company, because of his durability, his activity, his willingness to fight, the two-division champion, he's always present. Is Alex Pereira now the face of the UFC?
He's getting there. He hadn't passed up Sean O'Malley yet, but he could do it. Daniel, I can't believe this guy. I mean, I truly can't. He's got an amateur record. I think he has 10 fights now, but even if he does, that's an amateur record.
11.
If I'm wrong, is it 11? Okay, so he just crossed into double digits.
Got to 11.
Partner, he was the he was my fighter of the year last year. He held the 85-pound title and the 205-pound title within the same calendar year. By the way, and excuse me, he is one win away from the argument of GOAT no longer being an argument. We won't even have the discussion anymore. If Pereira was to go in and get it, and I don't care if it's the interim title off of Tom or he gets it from John Jones or however he gets it at heavyweight, if he was to get it, big if, but we don't even discuss GOAT anymore. We just go, well, you know, the GOAT, Alex Pereira. It will be a foregone conclusion. We could never get around that. This is for a guy with an amateur record. This is for a kickboxer. Come on, Maurice Smith did well in kickboxing. You got to fast forward all the way to Holly Holm, which was well over a decade later. You got to fast forward 7 more years to get to Adesanya. And now you have this guy. Like, kickboxers don't have this long, illustrious career and heritage within the sport. I mean, I only share that with you. Is that changing? Are there more guys like this that we could go find? Are there more guys in kickboxing that got a little something background? He's never had a wrestling match, never tried out for Abu Dhabi, let alone made it because he never put on a gi or did anything with grappling. He's the champion of the world. And now, and I built all of this, Dan, I just stated the obvious for this. Now you're telling me he's also going to be a leader in the locker room. You're telling me this guy with the amateur record who came from a different sport known as kickboxing is now a leader within our industry. He was the only champion that went out publicly and lobbied to get a fight at UFC 300. He's the only one that said, I'll put up the belt and I'll put it up against anybody. Bring him on. He's the only champion that was willing to do this fight, not to mention a rematch against a very tough nemesis. Nobody likes to do those. Pereira's a leader? Come on, man. I can't find a flaw within this guy. If I'm Dana White, I can't find a flaw.
I love him. I love him, and I'm writing him massive checks if I'm the UFC right now. Here's the thing, though, Chael. Here's the thing. It's very risky. But he also knew he wanted to fight Yuri. You want me to tell you what a risk really does start to become present for Alex? Yuri was a bit of a barrier between him and a guy like Ankalaev, who does have a wrestling background. Because you always knew you could revisit the Yuri fight. Now, once the Yuri fight's out of the way, now you got to start looking at some of these dudes that are grapplers to fight Pereira next. But with the way Pereira has handled these guys, I would not favor any of them to beat him. But he's done everything you could possibly do to really make yourself be one of the biggest stars in the organization. Organization loves him for that. But Chael, it all started with Izzy as the world champion making fun of him because he was drinking in a bar in Brazil minding his business, and Izzy said that he would be the guy that would talk about the glory days of beating him as he was the world champion. Could you imagine now how much anger all these guys have towards Adesanya for opening his mouth? Like, Izzy, let Sleeping Dogs lie, man. Leave this dude alone. He's in Brazil.
Yeah, you're right.
Drinking his life away. He's not even fighting anymore. And Izzy goes and makes fun of him. Come on.
Yeah, I never thought about it in that respect, but I did read that article, and I know exactly what it is that you're talking about. I mean, that's a big deal. And Izzy's now been very polite. He said, man, let somebody else go and deal with this guy. He's a monster. But you're right. He wouldn't be here in the first place had Izzy not taken that shot at him from the bar.
You know, they keep chill. I keep getting talked to when you're answering, bro. Like, I didn't get anything he said there, so I'm not even going to lie. I can't pretend.
Well,
but
and Daniel,
I am
could I add a distraction? So you're talking about distractions. Could I add mine? Sure. Here, Daniel, this is my distraction. This is called candy. They brought this candy in. My son is off screen over here, and he's been one just flew across my head right now. Oh, there goes another one. He's been throwing it at me. He's hitting me. Now he's gone to one in each hand because he wants back on camera so bad. I'm pretty sure that he spit one on me. Okay, I heard that, and something got me, and it was real fast. Yes, if you there's a starburst on my shoulder. Do you see that, Daniel? This is the professionalism I have to deal with. This is okay. This is barbarian-style tactics to get yourself camera time. Go into business for yourself.
You can't
Some
bring
people
your
like
kids
it.
to work.
Some people will fire you. Can you, Daniel? Are you seeing what's happening here?
Everybody goes, bring your kids to work day. Don't bring Thero. He is disruptive, man. Chael, I have to ask you this, though. Alex Pereira got the fight call. He stepped on the scale. He was 227 pounds. Take a look at it right here. He's heavy. He's 22 pounds over. He's going to have to make that weight in 2 weeks. Chael, what do you think? Now, honestly, I'll say this, right? All right. He's 22 pounds overweight. And to the normal person, you'll be like, oh, my God, that's really heavy. It's dangerous. Is he going to be able to make it? Chael, to you and I, 22 pounds overweight, 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, I'm in business. Because every time I went to the fight, if I was 225 on the Sunday before the fight, I felt really good about where I stood in terms of my weight. So 2 weeks, 22 pounds, I don't think it's that much, honestly.
I saw it the same way. Now, the hardest weight cut I ever had, I took a fight that was 21 days after I got the call, which means the weigh-in was 20 days after I got the call. I had to lose 36.2 pounds, and yes, I'm going to mention those 2 pounds, or that 0.2. 36.2 is one of the most uncomfortable physical experiences of my life. But, Daniel, I agree, like 227 fully hydrated, you only got to get down to 205? No, man, that's not a part of this story. He's in fine shape.
Yeah, he's in fine shape. For me, I've had some nightmarish ones. Mine, people point to Buffalo when I was 1.2 over, and then I had to go back, and they said I grabbed the towel, which I don't know if I did, to the Olympic Games. I was making 211 pounds, and I cut some serious weight, Chael. It was the worst. By the time I stepped on that scale in 2008 Olympic Games, I was right at the time limit of the games not allowing me to weigh in when I stepped on the scale at 211.4. But, I mean, I had been in that sauna for a while. It was awful, man. Buffalo was tough, too, because when I went into their training room, they had the treadmill right in front of a metal rolling up door, those garage doors.
Sure.
So they had a draft coming in. And that draft is the difference between losing 9 pounds and losing 5 pounds. And, boy, when I didn't get that 9 off, I really started to panic. It made me do another workout at midnight when normally I would be going to bed for the night. So, yeah, man, it's a little thing that makes for the weight cut to go off track. But I got to be honest, Chael, I don't worry too much about Alex. Dude made 185. I don't even know how he did that ever. It seems impossible.
No, I don't worry about him either. He's like Mr. Perfect, right? This guy's agreeing to do these things. He loves short notice fights. And my only takeaway from him weighing 227 when he's not trying to, he really could be a heavyweight. He's got the height. He's got the skill. He needs a few more pounds. I mean, not for nothing. Champ. We've never even had these discussions before. This guy qualifies for that conversation.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable deal what this guy has done in such a short period of time. He's an amazing fighter. I'm going to sit down and chat with him down in Las Vegas. Chael, your kid is Farrell's crazy. I mean, he is absolutely crazy, but I love him for it as he's bouncing candy off of you. Guys, you get new episodes of Good Guy, Bad Guy every Monday and Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts. ESPN MMA YouTube page, ESPN2. You can get us everywhere. And I promise you, every time there's a fight night, we getting at least 7 promos. Until next time, that's Chael Sonnen, and I'm Daniel Cormier. We'll catch you on the next.
Damn it, Pharaoh!
Peace.